Welcome. Today we're going to be taking a look at Gaia Project. It's a 1 to 4 player asymmetrical territory building civilization game where you take the role of one of the factions trying to build, upgrade technology, unite planets, and colonize your way across the Terra Mystica galaxy, trying to be the most developed faction. How to win the game and be the most developed faction is to have the most victory points at the end of 6 rounds. Now that we know what the winning condition is, let's go ahead and take a look at the components, the setup, and how a round and turn work in Gaia Project. Now let's look at the components for Gaia Project, starting with the space tiles that make up your main game board. Next is the Tech Research and Victory Point board. This board also contains actions at the bottom that will require you to spend power or QIC or green cube. Next is your scoring board. This will have round scoring tiles for each round, as well as 2 final scoring tiles and a track where you can compete for bonus victory points. If you are first on the track, you would get 18. If you're second on the track, you would get 12 victory points. And if you're third on the track, you would get 6. The tiles for Gaia Project will mostly go on the boards we just mentioned. On the Victory Point and Tech Research board, you're going to find standard tech tiles. So in this case, you would gain 1 ore and charge 1 power if you had this in your possession. Advanced technology tiles. So if you had this one for 1 action, you could gain a QIC cube and 5 credits. Then on the scoring board, you're going to find round tiles. So if it was in this round, for placing one of the structures that you see here, you would get 5 victory points. You'll also find your final scoring. So for each one of the structures here, you would increase up the track 1 for each of those. Now the final tile doesn't go on either one of the boards, it's the round booster. At the beginning of each round, you're going to be choosing a particular round booster for that round. Next we have our faction board. Each player is going to choose their own faction, and then in that color, take the following structures and markers. So for each player, you're going to have a planetary institute, academies, research labs, trading stations, mines, Gaia formers, player tokens, which are these hexagonal prisms, and satellites, which are your cubes. Next, let's look at the resources. First, we have our credits, which are the yellow circles. Then we have our ore, which are the white squares, the knowledge, which is the blue hexagons, the QIC or quantum intelligence cubes, which are the green cubes, power, which is your purple discs, and the brainstone, which is your pinkish purple, and finally the first player marker. Lastly are our tokens that we'll be using in Gaia Project. First is the space station. Next is the Federation, which looks kind of like a shield. Then we have our Gaia planets, our Lost Planet, our record tokens, and finally the action token. Now let's look at the setup for Gaia Project. We're going to be setting this up for a 2-player game. To do this, it takes 6 steps. Step number 1 is to set up the main game board. You can use the beginning board setup that you see in the rulebook or the advanced. What you see here is the beginning setup for a 2-player game. Step 2, set up the research board and separate your Federation tokens. To set up the research board, you're going to take the standard tech tiles and place a stack randomly on each one of the 9 positions. Then you're going to, at random, take 6 advanced tech tiles and place them in between spots 4 and 5 on each track. Then you're going to separate your Federation tokens by stack and take one and randomly place it on the level 5 of the terraforming track, making sure that you do separate the Glean's Federation token from the rest of the Federation tokens. Once you do that, you'll place all the other stacks next to the main game board. Step 3 is to set up your scoring board, where you are going to take round tiles for each round and randomly select 2 final scoring tiles. Step number 4, you're going to set out your round boosters and make your general supply. The number of round boosters you're going to be using for the game is the number of players plus 3. So in a 2-player game, we're going to use 5 round boosters. The general supply is made up of action tokens, Gaia planets and the Lost Planet, power discs, QIC cubes, and record tokens. Step number 5 is to choose a faction and set up your player board. To do this, you're going to start by placing all the structures on your board and the 3 Gaia formers next to your board. Next, you're going to take and place 1 ore, 1 knowledge, and 2 credits on your resource track. Next, you are going to take the number of QIC cubes that you see in the bottom right corner under your name. Next, place your power tokens in their correct sections. Next, you're going to take 6 of your 7 player tokens, these hexagonal prisms, and you're going to place them on the 6 tech starting spots. If your faction has one of them increasing, then you will move that up 1 spot. So in this case, it will move up 1 spot and gain us a QIC cube. Then you're going to place your final player token at the 10 on the victory point track. Then you're going to take 2 satellite cubes and place them on your final scoring bonus track. If this is a 2-player game, you're also going to have a neutral player place on the final scoring bonus track at the particular number located on that final scoring bonus tile in the bottom right corner. Then you will take a player aid, and if you are the Taclons, you'll take the Brainstone. If you are the Gleans, you'll take your Federation token. And the Ivets, you'll take the 6 space stations. That brings us to the final step. Step 6 is to place your first structures. You're going to be placing 2 mines, or if you're Xenos, you're going to take and place 3. You're going to use the diagram in the rulebook if it's your first time. If you've played the game a few times, the advanced setup would be to have a snake draft, or the first player would place theirs, and then the second, and then the third, and then for the second mine, they would go third, second to first. Before our first round starts, we are going to be choosing a booster, and we will be choosing that in reverse turn order. So the person going last will actually get to choose their round booster first. Now we're ready to begin the first round. There are 6 rounds in Gaia Project, each one consisting of 4 phases: income phase, Gaia phase, action phase, and the cleanup phase. Phase 1 is the income phase. This is where you're going to gain resources. You're going to up your resource track or move power based on the hand symbols that you see under resources. So that can be on your player board, that could be on tech tiles or round booster tiles, or where your player token is on the tech track. When moving power, you start with level 1 and move them to level 2, and then when all of the level 1s have moved, you'll move from level 2 to level 3. And finally, you can use level 3 power. Phase 2 is the Gaia phase. There are 2 things that happen during this phase. 1, you're going to take any power markers in the green section and move them to level 1. The other thing that's going to take place is if you have one of your Gaia formers on a transdim planet, which are these purple planets, then you are going to pay a QIC cube and place a Gaia planet under your Gaia former. Now you're ready to inhabit that planet. You're going to leave your Gaia former on that Gaia planet until you place a mine. Phase 3 is the action phase. In turn order, players are going to take one action until all players choose to pass. There are 8 actions you can take, and you can take them multiple times, except pass, of course. The first of these actions is to build a mine. To build a mine, the cost is 2 credits and 1 ore. It has to be habitable to you. So, for the yellow player, it can be a yellow planet. If it's a orange or brown planet, you would pay what is listed on the research or tech track for that symbol. So, you would pay 3 ore to put a mine on either one of those 2 planets. The purple planets are uninhabitable until you Gaia form them, like we just talked about. Also, mines have to be accessible from one of your existing planets. You can check this by using your navigation track, and that is your distance that you're looking for. So you start out with a distance of 1. You can use a QIC cube to increase it by 2 and make it a total of 3. So if you're starting out and you don't have a QIC cube, then you can only go 1 away from one of your planets. The second type of action is to start a Gaia project. To be able to do this, you have to have access to a Gaia former. You also have to be within range, like we just talked about, and pay the power based on the research area in purple. So, to start the game, you cannot Gaia form a planet unless you have at least a level 1 on that research track. The third type of action is to upgrade existing structures. When you upgrade an existing structure, you take that structure from left to right and place them back from right to left. Now you're going to upgrade in arrows that you see on your player board. So a mine would be going to a trading station. A trading station can go to an institute or a lab, and a lab can go to an academy. Upgrading a mine can be 6 or 3 credits. Normally it is 6, and if there is an opposing mine within a range of 2, the cost is reduced to 3. Now, if you upgrade from the trading station to either the lab and then from the lab to the institute, you will gain a tech tile for any of these upgrades. In doing so, you're going to take one of the tech tiles under the 6 tracks or take one of the bottom 3 tech tiles. If you take one of the 6 tech tiles under a specific track, you will increase your player token on that track up 1. If you take one of the bottom 3 tech tiles, then you will increase on any one of those 6 up 1. Now, it is at this point when you get to level 4 or 5, you can take an advanced tech tile. But if that's the case, you have to have your track at 4 or 5. You have to have a Federation token, and you also have to have at least one standard tech tile. The fourth possible action is to form a Federation. Now, structures have power underneath them on the player board. When you have structures on your board that are 7 or more, you can connect them and make a Federation. If they are not adjacent to each other, you will have to use your cubes or satellites, which will make you discard 1 power each. When you connect your Federation, you are going to put a record token on one of the planets to let you know that that is a federation. And then you will take a federation token of your choice. The fifth possible action is to make progress in your research up one of the tech tracks. You will pay 4 knowledge to increase 1 position on one of the tech tracks. Also, it is at this point I want to make sure that everyone knows that you can only have 1 person make it to level 5 on any of the tracks. So only 1 player on each one of the level 5s. The 6th possible action is to take a power or a QIC action you see on the research board at the very bottom. You will pay that power, which means that you'll be moving your power that you had at 3 to 1. So if you want to do this first one, you have to move 7 from the level 3 to the level 1. If you do so, then you will take and put an action tile on top of that action so that nobody else can take that action during this round. The 7th possible action is a special action. If a player has a tile that has a red octagon like you see in the bottom right corner for a tech tile, you can take that action once per round for free. The 8th possible action you can take on your round is to pass. When you pass, you are going to take your round booster and you are going to put it face down by the round booster tiles and pick one of the face up round boosters. Also, you will gain the first player marker if you are the first player to pass during that round. There are a couple of additional actions that can take place during a round. One is your free actions. For free actions, you can discard a level 2 power to charge a level 2 to a level 3. Other possible actions are located on the right side of the player board. There are also passive actions. When another player upgrades one of their structures that is within a range 2 of your planets in one of your structures, you can choose to charge power. To do this and to charge power, you would first pay the victory points based on the structure. So if it was an academy, you would pay the power -1 in victory points. So it would cost you 2 victory points to charge 3 power. That brings us into phase 4, which is our cleanup phase. During the cleanup phase, you are going to remove any action tokens. You are going to flip all of the round boosters face up and remove the round scoring tile so we know that the round is over. Now these rounds will keep going until we're finished with the 6th round. And once we're done with the 6th round, we're going to go into final scoring. There are 3 pieces to the final scoring before we're ready to see who the winner is. First, you go through the final scoring bonus. If you are first place on the track, you get 18, 12 for second place, and 6 for third. If you have one of your research tracks up 3, 4, or 5, you're going to get 4 points for each one that you have at level 3, 4, or 5. And lastly, you get 1 victory point for each 3 credit or knowledge you have. Once you add those to your victory points, the one with the most victory points wins the game.